Greetings everyone, this is Alt Lexington on the 10th of April 2020, just after midday. Or should I say, today I'm playing Flexi Auto Tray, a Liberated Borg. There's her profile if you wish to read it. It's maybe a little funny, I don't know. You can pause it if you want to. Yes, she is a Liberated Borg Klingon, and she's a science officer on the KDF side, the Klingon Defense Force. And the reason I'm using her, she is an underdeveloped character. She's very new, so she hasn't had time to get strong or anything like that. She was a no budget character until I decided to open some lockboxes to get her this. This is her ship, the Liberated Borg Juggernaut. It took about 70 to 80 boxes to get this ship, and I got some pretty nice stuff while opening those boxes. So let's get into the build. As I say, she was an underdeveloped character. She was a no-budget character until I opened these boxes, and that's all she's got is what she had from the boxes, from the lock boxes. So let's get into the build. She is using assimilated plasma beam arrays because they came out of the box, the Liberated Borg lockbox. And they haven't been upgraded because this character isn't ready for investing resources. She's still saving resources for when she's a bit further along. She's also got a plasma torpedo. I could go with the Omega weapon set, the plasma torpedo, the cutting beam, and the assimilated module from the Omega reputation, but I haven't completed reputations on this character yet. Her reputations are all tier 5, so I've unlocked all the traits, but I'm not using any of them. Any of these space traits or even ground traits or active traits, because I'm waiting until I've got her till I've done these projects, until I get her to tier 6, because if I was to use the traits now, there'd only be the rank 1 versions from each reputation, and I'm waiting till she's tier 6 where she has access to the rank 2 versions. So I'm still leveling up my reputation, and that's why I haven't bought any reputation gear for her, which includes the cutting beam, the assimilated module, and the Omega plasma torpedo. This is why I'm not using the Borg set yet, but I will eventually. The Borg weapon set and the Omega weapon set and the Omega Borg assimilated engine, shield, and deflector, I'll be using them eventually. But it's too soon for that right now on this character. She's still getting her reputations to tier 6 so she can have access to the rank 2 traits. So in the meantime, because she's a science officer, I've gone with a solenoid deflector because it was a free mission reward, to boost her exotics. Bajoran Hyper Impulse Engine, because it was another free mission reward and I needed an impulse engine, and it's not a bad for this slow lumbering brick of a ship. The Preeminent Warp Core, because that was a free mission reward and I had very little choice on this underdeveloped character because I'm limited with gear. And I didn't want to transfer any gear over from my other characters. I have the Riemann Prototype Covariant Shield as another free mission reward, and even though it's only Mark 10, it still outperforms most Mark 12 shields that you can get from rewards. And it's also that shield that if you switch on the visuals, you get this nice Riemann effect of glows, although it doesn't quite work here in these green coloured systems like the ones you'd get in the Conduit or Kittimer. This is more the effect you'll get. Somehow when I switch on the character status page, the effect corrects itself. And that's what it would normally look like with the Riemann visuals on. But I don't go with those visuals because everybody uses them and they're a bit too commonplace for my like. So I've just gone with my own pattern that I put together in the tailor, which on this ship there's not many options. And I wanted something a bit brighter and bubblier, but not the Liberated pattern. I wanted the actual Borg Collective pattern, as you can tell by the Borg logo that's here. Anyway, standard for any of my builds usually is the Lobistor Bioneural and the Lobistor Tachyokinetic. I was able to get them on these characters because opening lockboxes provides Lobi crystals. And since I got plenty of Lobi crystals while opening those boxes, I bought the two consoles that I consider standard. The Bioneural, I usually have it for the crit severity, although that doesn't mean much on this exotic science character. So this character more benefits from the control effects from this console. And the hull capacity, even though the hull on this ship isn't so bad if it was on any other kind of character that is more further along in development. And the Tachyokinetic is for the turn rate, because this ship turns like a brick and is very slow. The Martog defensive configuration, that's a free console from an episode reward with turn rate. Same as Polaric Modulator, another turn rate and flight speed console. So I'm trying to compensate for this ship's flying brickiness. Also, to boost exotics, I've gone with a particle generator. I couldn't quite afford the very rare version, and this character isn't worth wasting too many resources on just yet, when she's still saving resources for later on in the game, like for when she visits the research lab and has to buy the extra trait slots. That's what she's saving for, dilithium and fleet marks and everything. She's saving to unlock them. This console, I believe it is another free console. Temporarily shielded data core that boosts exotics and control effects, which is what you need for a science character, even though this ship is more of an engineering orientated ship. I've built it to be in line with my character, which is science, my character that's using it. for some reason I had a lot of boronite laced weaponry consoles in my account bank. So I spread them out among my characters. And this character got it because she's a science and it boosts exotic and control effects. Which is what you need on a science. You need exotic and control effects to be as high as you can get them. This is a free episode reward, Tactical Chronometric Capacitor. It boosts exotic damage. It also boosts torpedo damage, but I've got it for the exotic damage. And it also boosts polaron damage, though I'm not actually using polaron weapons. I've only got it really for the exotic damage. Here I've got 3 Borg consoles, 3 Liberated Borg consoles. This one, Universal Disruptive Topological Matrix. This is the console that came with the ship. I've just got to remind myself of what it does. This console kind of fires at multiple targets. It increases plasma damage passively, but the clicky, this one here, it kind of fires cones of, similar to beams of energy, but small thin cones of energy at the enemy to do plasma damage and disable subsystems. Like a stream of nanites, I would guess. And it's quite useful at weakening the enemy. This console came out of the lockbox, cutting tractor beam. Let me see if I can find where it is. There it is. What it does is it drops a platform that fires tractor beams from it. The platform fires tractor beams at targets that cause kinetic damage. Basically, it's a tractor beam that cuts into the enemies, but it's a platform, like deploying a phaser platform or a disruptor platform. And this console retrofitted a simulator. This boosts exotic damage and control effects, but also it has a clicky that allows you to, every 2 minutes, you can fire a nanite-laced torpedo at a target. And if the target dies within a short time after firing the torpedo, the target will resurrect as an assimilated pet. And it works too. It may not work on boss targets, but it does work on other targets. You can assimilate an enemy and have him follow you around as a pet for about 2 minutes or 3 minutes. Although the pets aren't very intelligent. They don't really help much, but they're fun to see. For example, in Korea system, you can assimilate a Diderodix warbird to help you out for a few minutes, and it's pretty fun because you can see that the Diderodix warbird, once assimilated, it looks like it's got the Omega reputation gear on it, even though it's a pet. You know, that deflector that sticks out the front of your ship with long strutting bits. Although some, like the Kazon Raiders in Argala system, they will be, once they're assimilated, they become Borg probes. Sometimes. So it's one of the most fun consoles I've ever come across, even though it doesn't really do any serious damage. So these 3 consoles, 2 of them from the Borg box, 1 of them from the ship, are all to do with the theme of Liberated Borg. But they don't form a set, so you don't get any set bonus from them. These Borg plasma beams, they are very similar to the beams that come from the cutting tractor beam platform, except they're plasma cones of energy, thin cones of energy that fire from the ship doing plasma damage. And they look similar to much thinner tractor beams. Now, as a science character wanting to do exotic damage, I have put my auxiliary power up as high as I can get it on this character. And then I put my weapons up a little bit because I wanted to actually do some weapon damage, although I haven't really ended up with much due to not having any reputation skill for weapons. And I left the other 2 shields and engines where they are. So if we look at my skills, you can see that there's nothing in tactical. It's all about science exotic, and whatever's left over went into engineering for survivability and a bit of speed and turn rate. For my traits, I'm not using the reputation traits yet because I don't want to use, even though I've got the rank 1s, I don't want to use them until they're rank 2. So I've left them empty. I don't like using stuff until I've got it. Till I've got it as far as it can go for free. I'm not a fan of power creep, where you can put on the traits at rank 1 and then one day when you get to tier 6 on your reputation, suddenly they become rank 2 and you're a little bit creeped up in power. I don't like that. I like to wait until I get full power. Excuse me, I've got a dry throat today. Don't worry, it's not the big bad. Too much smoking. For my personal space traits, I've got some from the genetic resequences that came in the lockbox. Adaptive offences, which gains critical chance for me, and critical severity. If you want to pause the video, you can read it. I've got the other one. Oh, sorry, that's adaptive defense, and this is adaptive offense. There they both are. The adaptive offense gives me critical chance and critical severity, and the adaptive defense is a very good heal. It's like my ship adapts to damage and heals. It's kind of like a hazard emitters on your hull that fixes your hull up nice and your hull glows green, just like with hazard emitters. I've got conservation of energy for the exotic damage, astrophysicist, more exotic, innocuous for the minus threat generation because it's a big ass ship that needs to reduce its threat on a low end character like this, a bit of flight speed, warp theorist, because as you notice my power levels are a little low on this character. And it's really lack of choices as well. And so I've got bulkhead technician and shield technician for extra hull and shielding. Hull capacity and shield capacity. So you've got the 2 Borg traits here. Now for my starship traits, let me figure out which one came with the ship. Oh yes. This first one came with the ship after completing mastery. When this triggers, it's a pretty good heal from nanites that swarm over your hull. That could be the one that glows green actually, instead of adaptive defense. Sometimes it's hard to tell from these icons which one comes from what trait or what ability, unless you mouse over it, which you can't always do during combat. I've also got Temporal Anchor from the legendary Discovery starship, the Crossfield. I believe it comes from that ship, and it makes my gravity wells do radiation damage and makes them appear red instead of the usual colour. The Best Diplomat. This is a Fire at Will build. So it's an exotic build with Fire at Will. So during Fire at Will I will get bonuses based on my ship power levels, especially auxiliary, which is what I've got a lot of. So that's about defense. And regeneration cycle. I believe this came from the Borg lockbox as well, but not with the ship. This gives me more hit points, more hull. So yes, this build, it doesn't really make flowing sense, but it's the best I could do with this character's resources and gear that I'm willing to spend at this time. I just wanted to get the only playable Borg ship, because she is a Borg. This ship is a command / miracle worker ship. That's why it's an engineering focused ship. However, I've made it science focused instead. And for my specializations, I went with Miracle Worker as a secondary because it's not complete on this character, and Temporal Ops as primary because it helps with exotic damage for a science character, and also because my command specialization is another one that's not complete. This character has only done Temporal Ops so far, so that's why I'm using it as primary, and Miracle Worker because it's the other one that comes with this ship. Whereas I've left command with, I'm not using command. So for my engineer, I believe he's the Elachi. Yes. And he has elusive trait, space trait. He comes from playing that episode in the Mycelial Realm. You get a free Elachi bridge officer. And engineering team, tactical team and science team I consider standard. Engineering team to heal hull, tactical team to keep your best shields between you and the enemy, and science team to restore your shields. I consider them pretty standard. The other engineering ones, reverse shield polarity to fool enemy weapons into charging my shields, so I don't have to use emergency power to shields, which would interfere with emergency power to auxiliary, and I need to keep auxiliary strong for exotic damage. And weapons aren't so important on this ship, so I haven't done emergency powder weapons, which is the alternative. For my command station, I've only put on one command ability because I wanted to have at least one on since it is a command ship. So I went with Suppression Barrage, which targets my weapons at the enemy's weapons to try and stop them from shooting me so much. And it gives them a slow debuff. And because I went with Fire at Will with this ship to show off its assimilated plasma beams, I also went with Torpedo Spread. For my other tactical station, the Miracle Worker one, I didn't need any more tactical officer gear because weapons aren't important on this ship. Since it's a science ship, since I've done it as an exotic build, I decided to go with whatever I could afford with the resources I was willing to spend, and I went with Nanite Repair Payload because that seems pretty fitting for a Borg ship and nanites from the Miracle Worker specialization. That's a nice little heal. It's like another tactical team, it seems to feel like. And Destabilize Warp Core, which will sometimes allow enemies to blow up a little bit first and then a lot second. Blow up twice. And I'm not sure, but I believe it interferes with Assimilation Torpedo. I believe if you've got this on a ship and you try and assimilate them, the assimilation won't work and this will. But I'm not sure. I could be mistaken there. Now, although I've done this as an exotic build, I'm very limited with my science stations. I had to go with the 2 universal stations because there is no dedicated science station on this ship. You just get 2 tacticals and an engineer, and the other 2 are universal. There's no pure science dedicated station, so I've made my universal ones both science, but still I'm pretty limited with how much science I could put on this ship. So I just went with Gravity Well for the red Gravity Well trait, and Charged Particle Burst because that's always good when you group things up in a Gravity Well. And because it's a big ship, it often gets caught in tractor beams, so I went with Polarized Hull. To help me continue moving while caught in a tractor beam. And the Terrans are terrible for capturing this. I went into Counterpoint, and the Terrans, they gang up on you with 3 or 4 ships all firing tractor beams to hold you in place. So Polarized Hull is very helpful there. And for my duty officers, I don't have the Neil Falconer. Although I could get him, I could reclaim him and put him on. That's something to think about later. And for my active space officers, for science I've gone with creating Aftershock after Gravity Well, which can give me 2, 3 or even 4 Gravity Wells. Gives me a chance of turning 1 Gravity Well into 2, 3 or 4. Deflect cooldown officers to reduce my emergency power to auxiliary, so I can keep auxiliary nice and strong. The free officer from Nimbus, from playing Nimbus Wastelands lore, he reduces the cooldown on torpedoes. However, I don't think it will affect Nanite Repair Payload or Assimilate Torpedo, Nanite Lace Torpedo. And I don't think it will help Plasma Disintegrator either. It only helps my standard Plasma Torpedo which will one day be replaced with the Omega torpedo, even though it's not as good as the hyper-Romulan plasma. And finally, I got a few Borg officers from the lockbox, and this one seemed pretty fitting for this ship. When I use science abilities, I can get a whole heal for the entire team. And when I use, which I've got because I'm an exotic build, and when I use command abilities, which is suppression, barrage, I can improve exotic damage. So this 28 of 47 felt pretty good for this ship. So yes, this is a budget character until she opened Borg lockboxes to get the Juggernaut, because I was pretty determined to get this Juggernaut for her. So she's budget for everything but what came out of the... Plus, she's a free-to-play character, adding in everything that came out of the lockboxes that it took to get this ship. The 70 to 80 lockboxes. So it's not really a budget character, but it was until I opened lockboxes. On my keybind, I've put on the auxiliary to emergency pad auxiliary to keep my auxiliary strong, the fire at will to keep that going, extra exotic damage from boronite laced weapons, tactical team for my shields, and torpedo spread. That's the only ones I've put on my spacebar spammer. Now, as you can see, my weapons are very, very weak, but that's due to my skill tree not having any firepower, any tactical points. But then this character was always meant to be an exotic character on any ship she flies. And I don't change my skill tree based on what ship I'm in, because that costs, and I don't like paying that. Retrain tokens. So all these plasma beams are just doing barely any damage at all, 1/4 what they could be if I had tactical skill trees, tactical points spent. Even my torpedo is pretty weak. However, if I mouse over my gravity well, it's not so bad. It's not high-end or anything, it's still pretty much free-to-play power levels, but it's not so bad. Now if we go into my stats, first let's have a look at mastery. You get critical chance, critical severity, hull regeneration, kinetic and energy damage, and the trait. And the tools on this ship, I found them, they could be powerful on a better character than this, and even though this character hasn't got enough to make them powerful, she still finds them pretty fun. They are pretty fun tools to use. I mean, I like these Borg lockbox stuff so much that I even put a lot of them on my ground build as well, including a simulated weapon and a kit module. So my stats, not very good power transfer rate, not bad hull, nearly 100,000, so that's pretty not bad at all. Damn good shield regeneration, and so-so shields, not bad, not that great, but not bad. Resistances are pretty poor, but not bad. Crits mean nothing on an exotic build. Speed and turn rate is terrible, but this ship is so big that you've got to expect it to be a bit terrible. And even with all those boosting consoles, it's still pretty terrible. And all those skill points in engineering. But the all-important ones are the exotic ones, like Drains, 145. Exotic Damage, 319. And Control Effects, 207. So it's not too bad on the exotics, even though it's limited with how many science stations it's got. So this ship, on this character, is very, very weak, but it's not about the firepower or even the exotics. It's just about having fun. It's a low-end character that received a pretty nice high-end gift that it can't use to the full potential of a high-end gift. It still uses the high-end gift as a low-end item. But I'm thoroughly enjoying playing Liberated Borg. I like to pretend I'm an actual Borg, creating my own collective to oppose the cooperative and the actual Borg collective. I find in space though you can only assimilate one thing at a time, whereas on ground you can create a whole army of drones. So I'm only going to be playing normal difficulty, and we'll start with a very easy patrol. We'll do our Gala system. That's the wanted patrol. So let's see if we can assimilate, is it Kazon, is it Erosion, is it Malon, who knows until we get there. But as you can see, I've got it as much Borgified as I can, as much theme Borg as I can go with. It will improve, and you'll probably see videos of this ship again months down the line when it's a bit more complete with the Omega reputation stuff. But for now, this is what I've got. First things first, we're just going to do the weapons. Remember, they're pretty weak, but at least you'll get to see what they look like. See, they're more like cones than straight beams. Trying to see what things are being applied to the target. I'm not actually fighting properly, I'm just trying to let you see what things look like. As you can see, the green glow just went over my hull from the trait. The repair trait.
You have entered an area controlled by the Benthan Guard. Our scans indicate your ship is armed and operating. You are now... Looks like our fight got them to notice us.
Right, let's put down a cutting tractor beam platform.
Might come out of hiding.
I hope I'm not going to auto fire, because you have to target one of them to get the tractor beam platform to work. Let's get a bit closer, make sure we can... Because I love this tractor beam platform. It's not powerful, but it's pretty good to look at. There, we'll drop it there. There it is. Wait for it to acquire a target. There, it's got one. Now, can we get close enough to see that the cutting platform is ripping off little tiny chunks of hull from the enemy? There you go, you can see the little tiny chunks of hull. That was fun. And it can do that to several enemies at a time, it doesn't just target one. Sometimes it does, sometimes it targets more than one. But I like these Borg weapons. This ship is more about appearance than anything. There's the trait. This looks like hazard emitters, but it's not. But it does similar things.
Keep concentrating fire on individual ships. Separate them and whittle down their numbers.
Okay, let's try and assimilate this guy. Fire the assimilation torpedo. There it goes. Now we've got to kill him in a certain amount of time in order for him to be assimilated. So let's see if we can hit him hard. Not that we're able to hit much hard on this ship. Charge part of reverse should do some help. See if I can get my plasma torpedo around. There. See, he's turned into a probe. And now he's my pet.
We will not go quietly.
And he's attacking with the same beams that I've got. Now let's try the topological matrix. There it goes, it's firing these beams that rebuff the enemy. They do plasma damage. And it's like a viral disruption. These big Kazon ones can be assimilated. Not the boss, just the big ones. But yeah, have a 2-minute cooldown on the torpedo. Anyway, let's try gravity well on him. Red gravity well. And a charged particle burst. Love to see those black numbers come off the enemy. Show my charged particle burst actually did physical damage. Omega torpedoes? Sorry, just plasma torpedoes. Let's see if we can assimilate this big ship now. We've got a turn firing up, there it is. And away it goes. Now we've got to try and destroy him, which means another cutting platform. Bit of weakening by a bit of science. Charged particle burst, forgot to boost it with sensor scan. Let's see if he assimilates, if I can kill him in time. Give him a gravity well to make sure. It looks like he is assimilating. You can see the nanotes around him. Command, I usually go with the whole heal one because this is a low end character and it needs the help. He should be assimilated if he comes out of the gravity well at some point. Oh, maybe he turned into a probe. So Kazons turn into probes when assimilated. Let's try topological again. They are the thinner beams. They're similar to the plasma beams they're firing, except a lot more transparent. So for normal difficulty, this ship is doing okay, even though it's not a quick killer, the way I've got it done. But I do enjoy low-end play these days. I've got a lot of alternate characters that I tend to play on more than I do my high-end ones. I'm just giving cooldowns a bit. Oh, looks like they're alright. This next one, Plasma Disintegrator, is awesome. Want to be patterned for data storage? Let's gravity well them up. Slow down a bit because we don't want to get too close, because you can't fire it when you're within certain range. Now let's fire it. There it goes. Now when he dies, he'll be patterned for data storage. And you'll hear that beeger sound of when the torpedo hits. See? You can hear the beeger sound of like when Beeger's torpedoes hit. The Voyager space probe Beeger. Or as we know it in this game, the Unimatrix plasma torpedo. Unimatrix ship. Alright, let's try and assimilate him. Let's put another cutting platform down and topological all at once. And we've got another probe. Some bosses you can assimilate, but not many. For example, in Romulan Minefield, you can assimilate the scimitar at the end of that and have it follow you around after the match is over. And I've noticed on ground, in Brotherhood of the Sword, you can assimilate their boss Herald at the end, and he will follow you around with your ground assimilation. I haven't needed to use my repair payload. I can fire that at an ally as well to give him a whole heal. Ah, let's use the destabilize warp core, see what that does, although we might not be able to see it with gravity well anyway. Although I am targeting Marge Colours ship, so that one won't blow up. Wrong ship to target. That one doesn't blow up, it gets captured by the Benthams. I wonder, can I come out and target him with the plasma disintegrator? He won't disintegrate because this boss doesn't die in this match. But it might do a fair bit of damage to him. There we go. Huge torpedo. Tried everything I could to assimilate him, but I doubt he'll assimilate because he's not supposed to die. He's got plot armor on. So, I haven't fought this match properly, but it's been more about just showing off the ship and its gear than it is about actually fighting properly. The Benthams better be careful when they arrest Marge Colour, because there's nanites all over the place and they might get assimilated. I tell you, this ship and all its gear is very good for roleplay, for your immersion.
That's got it. Excellent work. We'll send over a pacification party, take the suspect into custody.
All those players who wanted a Borg ship in the game have finally got their dream come true with this one.
Welcome to this sector. We recommend that you get underway and head for secure space. There's been a lot of turbulence. The K's on. We have the suspect.
And I was never a fan of having Borg ships added, playable Borg ships added to the game, but they seem to have got it right with this one. It's not going to disrupt game mechanics or make anyone too overpowered. So I'm kind of loving it. I'm very satisfied with this purchase. Now, I would like to do a Korea system. So that means I can't get Korea system from the patrol menu, because it's not part of these new patrols. So I'm just going to have to travel there. Because I want to assimilate a Diderodix warbird. So you can see what it looks like. It's a long way to Korea. There we go. Now, I've blown up a fair few times in this ship, despite how strong its hull is. And its shields are pretty okay. But that's because I lack weapon firepower, so the enemy can out-endure me. My firepower can't really get through the enemy's endurance in a timely fashion. But here we are at quantum slipstream speed. I tell you, this is a big ship. I believe it's slightly bigger than the Herald Vomp, but not as big as the Enterprise J. So I think it's probably the second biggest playable ship in the game. That's if memory serves me about ships. And some of you probably know that I play an engineer as my main character, so I love the big ships. If this wasn't an engineer, it'd probably make a very, very good tank. I could see it one day becoming a really good tank, but not in my hands. I want it on my Liberated Borg character, who happens to be a science. So I build it as exotic. Which is wrong, but who cares about right and wrong? So here we are in Korea system. And there's the Diderodix. Or Diderodex. And I want to assimilate it. So I will hit it with my nanite laced torpedo. And then just blast it with everything I've got. I wonder will this cancel it out, because that will disintegrate. Yep, does it work? Nope, no, it disintegrated. So the plasma disintegrator overrides your nanite laced torpedo. That's a shame. I wanted to assimilate it there. Oh well. We'll try and assimilate one of these Mo guys instead when the cooldown's done. Still just as fun. Alright, let's see if we can get them to blow up twice. That's the first time, that little gold circle that came out of him. And that's the second time when his singularity blows up. I'm not flying right, that's why I'm dying. But still half a minute away from the nanite torpedo. 10 seconds. Can I stay alive and turn enough to get him? There it goes. The firing arc on this nanite torpedo is a lot better than normal torpedoes, and I missed. So so he won't be assimilated. I'll have to try it on the next one. So as you can see, this isn't about showing off any DPS or firepower, it's more about just showing off the fun potential of the ship, even on a low-end character. Right, cutting platform, it comes out behind me there. I think it's a bit too far away, I don't know. And it targeted Scorpion fighters instead. There it's got a Talus, and it's ripping away whole sections. Topographical on the Mogai. There it goes. My weapons seem to hit a little harder when topological is active on them. Not much, just a little. You'd notice the difference on a high-end build much more. Oh, stay alive for 18 seconds, please. He's not going to, is he? No, he didn't stay alive long enough for my torpedo to be cooled down. But let's try this one then. This Mogai, see if we can assimilate him. Let's turn properly this time, because the more you're in the centre of its fire, the more chance you are of hitting. There it goes. Is it going to hit him? I think it did hit him, so let's kill him. Let's kill the Mogai. If we're able. I'm usually a lot better at assimilating things, but there he is, he's assimilated. If we stop here, you can see that he's firing the Borg beams now, and he's got the Borg reputation gear on him, like that deflector on the front. Let's see if we can get a better look. The pets aren't very strong though. You can see his deflector up there on the front. Anyway, let's see if we can group these up and fly out and see if we can disintegrate them. We're not going to get a good disintegration here. Let's wait for the sound. No, I think we're a bit too slow with it. It's kind of hard to use some of these abilities while talking at the same time because it takes some concentration, but it's fun kind of concentration, not struggle kind. One thing I've noticed about this disintegrator torpedo is when you're in an infected conduit and you're waiting the 30 seconds it takes for the match to start, you can fire that thing and it will sit beside your ship waiting for the match to start. And when the match starts, it starts moving as you do. So you can warp into infected conduit, launch that thing, and it will sit right beside your ship. And it will stay there until the match begins, and then it will head to the target. And this Mogai, it loves me, because I'm its queen. I've assimilated it. That's the one thing about the pet, though. It tends to hang on your backside when it's got nothing to do, just like 7 of 9 in the Delta Quadrant. And I've also noticed that whatever battle group a pet comes from, it probably won't leave the designated zone for that battle group. It's unlikely to, and it doesn't follow you so well when you're at full impulse. It tends to lose you. But this one should be able to follow me pretty easy because there's nothing else on the map. There it goes, it's gone. Its effect wore off and it died. Or vanished. Now I'm going to try an easy TFO because this character can't handle difficult ones. So I'm going to do Romulan Minefield. An easy TFO, and I'm going to try and assimilate the boss. It's potluck whether I actually get it or not, depending on the team. But we could try Romulan Minefield. And it usually pops pretty quick, this one, so it should be okay. And in the meantime, we're going to go to New Romulus, because you can't see stats properly in open space, but Romulan Minefield has popped. There is only one little gripe I have about this ship, and it didn't come with its own bridge. It came with the standard alien bridge, not any specific one. I wanted a bridge with alcoves and things in it, but it didn't do that. It just came with a pretty bog standard ship that they use for bridge that they use for alien ships. It's not a special, unique bridge. But it would have been nice to have an alcove on the bridge. Anyway, Romulan Minefield. It looks like there's a few escorts there, maybe. Hestia. But the other day I did assimilate the boss in this, and it was following me around after the match had ended. We can try that again. And it didn't turn into a probe. It turned into something similar to Denatra.
The Romulans have cloaked mines next to the transport. Keep an eye out.
Now, do I have an assimilated Mogai? Yep, I do. There it is.
Excellent work against those frigates.
So if you've
Just
always
few more
wanted
to
a
go.
playable Borg ship in the game, and you're wondering whether this very first one is worth the investment in lockboxes to get it, I'm here to tell you that it is worth it. If you're really intent on having it, it's worth it. Because I've been enjoying it thoroughly, as much as I have that Ferengi Takora, which was my last video. Sorry, that Ferengi Quark Marauder. I'm going slow because I don't want him to lose me. I want him to stay following me so he can engage these other enemies. If I get there within the few minutes he exists for. No, he's not fast enough to engage these. He's going to disappear before he gets there. He doesn't want to engage enemies that are outside of his zone. Oh, there he goes. His zone was the other asteroid, but I managed to successfully get him over to this one. I'm going to hit this one with it. Oh no, he blew up too soon. I wanted to see if we could get two ships at the same time, but I don't think we can. Unless you time it really carefully. Now what are those ships doing down there? There's an asteroid down there. Disintegrator. Sometimes it misses, but it still does damage as it passes by. Other times the ship's too much health to be disintegrated. But if you can get it fired on them when they're about half health with those shields, you can easily disintegrate them. However, it's not easy to actually get the good target. So a lot of these weapons, these Borg consoles and things and abilities, they do rely on proper timing to hit things, and it takes a bit of practice, and the chances are you're going to miss your target or something. But it's worth all the misses to get one that works, because that is a good payoff and a lot of fun. I suppose team members probably look at me playing with this character and this ship and thinking,
The job isn't
how
over
come
yet.
he's so weak when he can afford lockbox ships? It's because this character is working her way up to this ship's potential. She ain't there yet. She's one of 20 characters, so they're slow to work on. Ah! Can we assimilate a Dideritix this time? We won't do the plasma disintegrator, because that will override the assimilation process. Yes! Yes, we've got an assimilated Dideritix. Resistance was futile for you. I'm your queen now. Not drag queen. I'm a good, hard, strong, masculine queen.
Facility Beta is safe.
Oh, I forgot to make sure the facility was safe. I'm too
Facility
busy
Gamma is up and running.
enjoying my assimilated Dideritix. And this team is pretty good, so they're easily able to compensate for my distraction of making a video.
Facility Alpha is back online.
Is that all of them? Yep. So now we've got to hopefully we'll be able to save the torpedo, the nanite laser torpedo, until her health is pretty low. And then we can hopefully we'll be facing the right direction to assimilate her. Command, turn, fire! Right, let's see if it's a simulator first. It's going down pretty fast with this thing. Yep, we got her.
Excellent.
There she is. She's assimilated. And she's following me. Yep, we turned a scimitar into something similar to Denatra. Except not as elaborate by the looks of things. That's how you assimilate a boss. She'll go anywhere with me for, what is it, 3 minutes for as long as the effect lasts, and then she'll vanish. As long as I don't go to full impulse. She'll be able to spot me and stay with me. Now if I stop here, she should come and kiss my arse. Quite my ship's arse. Because she loves her queen. Scimitars love their queen. You can see the Omega deflector on the front. Just a tiny little thing there. There she goes. She's trying to mount her queen. Oh yeah, and you can definitely see this ship's bigger than a scimitar. I'm so pleased I was able to time that. It's not easy. Well, I wouldn't say it's hard, but it's not easy either. And Romulan Minefield's one of the easier ones to assimilate things. Taking her away from her platform. I just want to wait and see how long it lasts for. "180 seconds. But there are immunities to assimilation. Dragged her past the Alpha and Beta asteroids, and Gamma. Oh, the match ended before she disappeared. The match timed out. Well, there you have it. Liberated Borg Juggernaut. Enter new Romulus system just to have a quick look at the build again before I wrap this video up. So, that was a themish exotic Borg, a themish Borg exotic build. When I should have done a tank build really for a ship like this, but I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I'm still enjoying it. And I hope you enjoyed the video enough to like, maybe subscribe. But most of all, I'd love to see comments. Please be kind. Oh, and I highly recommend these plasma beams if you're interested in your Space Barbie appearance, because they look pretty damn good. On this ship, remember this is a big ship, so the plasma beams don't look as hugely wide as they do on other ships. On other ships they look a lot wider because they're smaller ships in comparison. Anyway, this is Old Lexington signing off, saying goodbye, and resistance is futile, you will be mine. Oh, and a sneak preview of my next video. It's that ship that's behind me that just disappeared. Bye.